As always, I'd like to remind everyone that where the Great Smoky Mountains National Park is, as you can see, it's here in the southeast United States on the border between North Carolina and Tennessee. I made a decision to hike all the trails in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Now, that's quite some undertaking, so I'm trying to do section by section. For this hike, I thought I'd go to the Purchase Knob area and cover some of the hikes adjacent to one of my previous hikes to help me finish off that area. Back in March of 2021, I did this Big Fork Trail, Caldwell Fork Trail, Rough Fork Trail circuit. I wanted to start my hike at the Ferguson Cabin, but unfortunately that and the Science Center up above there are at the end of a private road. So I started from the end of the public road and hiked 1.4 miles up to the trailhead for the Ferguson Cabin. Upon reaching the Ferguson Cabin trailhead, I decided to head on out and take a look at the cabin since I wasn't sure when I'd be back in the area again. That was about 0.4 miles. You guessed it, I then returned back to 0.4 miles to the Purchase Road. I then hiked the remaining 0.72 miles on up to the Science Center. Really cool place, I'll show you in a bit. After a brief lunch and a beautiful time at the Science Center, I headed on out and came to some signage that wasn't terribly clear. After choosing the trail I thought it was indicating, I followed it and ended up down back at the Ferguson Cabin. After realizing my error, I grumbled a little bit and then headed right back up to the intersection. Once at the intersection, I now realized what they were trying to indicate, and I headed on the remaining few hundred feet to the Cataloochee Divide Trail. On the Cataloochee Divide Trail, I headed down south on that about 1.8 miles to reach the Hemphill Bald Trail. In the process, it turns out you're within 2 or 3 feet of the national park boundary for a good portion of that. I then turned and headed down the Hemphill Bald Trail for about 2.9 miles to reach the Caldwell Fork Trail. Happily, it took only about 0.15 miles on the Caldwell Fork Trail to reach campsite 41, where I stayed for the night. The next day, I headed the opposite direction, northeast, on the Caldwell Fork Trail for about 1.6 miles to reach the intersection with the McKee Branch Trail. Naturally, upon reaching the McKee Branch Trail, I headed on up that trail for 2.25 miles to reach the Cataloochee Divide Trail, continuing past it onto the upper Ferguson Cabin Trail, and that brought me to the Purchase Road in about 0.6 miles. Then, all that was left was to hike the 1.4 miles back down to my car. This time I decided to go ahead and record a little bit of my trip over to the Smokies. As you can see, it gets steadily less flat and steadily more wooded and mountainous. Isn't it wonderful? Hello, Graybeard here for the Sylvan Reflections channel. Just wanted to get ready to start here, take off on my hike for today. But before I do, I wanted to show you a few things I thought you might enjoy. Some new socks that I'm getting ready to try out here. You can tell from the spelling that's not your typical American brand socks. They Grandavik or something of that nature. I'll have to ask the lady who owns the company. Met her when my daughter and I were on a trip up to Iceland to help out one of the places up there, and this lady was just wonderful, fantastic lady. Socks to Go is her company, and she told me about this one. It's a really nice merino wool type of sock, so it's comfortable, it works great, and the natural fibers like this don't tend to hold on to the odoriferous leavings when you hike, so they do better than the synthetic. So can't wait to try that out this time. I also have Two Tom's Sport Shield. You can see it is really pretty cool. Really helps prevent rubbing between the toes. If you're like me, it is really difficult to keep them from rubbing together during the hike, and I always get blisters. Used to. My sister showed me this, and I've not had any problems since. You just take it, take a shoe out, just roll it on, you're good to go. Last but not least, the moleskin. This is really important, especially if you blister on your heel. As you know, you need to lace up the boots nice and snug so that you don't have lots of sliding around room. But if you get blisters even so, like I do, you're going to want to put the moleskin just right there on the back where the blister normally occurs. It works great. A good substitute, if you can't get a hold of moleskin, you can find a really wide, strong adhesive Band-Aid that's not the cloth ones. The cloth ones have too much resistance against the sock, but you get one of those hard, one of those plastic smooth ones, and they can do all right, but nothing like moleskin. I'm getting a little later start. We're around 11:30 almost. So I'll just make a nice casual day of it, and we'll get the ball rolling. To start, past the paved road is a gated private road that you're allowed to use as long as you stay on the road. But you have to be very careful where you park because you need to respect the rights of private property owners. So we're gonna get started. As always, we love to see the wild hydrangea. And one of the fleabanes. I'm not sure if it's Daisy Eastern. We also have probably, I'm thinking this one is the Oxide Daisy. Finally hitting the park boundary. And that is, you can see here, welcome to Purchase Knob. And here we have another. Here's the wingleaf primrose, or willow. I can't remember this one before, so I think it's a new one. And of course, fire pink is not a rare flower, but wonderfully bright. And the small woodland sunflower. Saw this on one of my Deep Creek hikes, if I remember. And I love the black-eyed Susan. You gotta love that dark brown yellow contrast. And here we have a yarrow, which is another new one for me, I think. And the Virginia spiderwort. Very delicate, very thin. Love that one. Been waiting for this one here. Just, oh, it is unbelievably beautiful. That is just beyond pretty. We have another bloom or flower. The flame azalea. Nice bright one. The last time I remember seeing it was on the 2021 Hyatt Ridge backpacking trip. The self-heal, I remember that one in the Miggs Mountain backpacking trip. Here we have another one. Really pretty. And the tall thistles, really bright, colorful purple. Love that. Now, the Carolina horse nettle is, I don't know if I've seen that before, but the family sure is familiar. Looks like one of the previous hikers was trying to leave a message. Oh, we are almost through the blooming season for the mountain laurel. It's sad, they are so pretty. Oh, the mountain laurel. As I always say, the flower's geometric character really accentuates its lovely pink colors. And the star chickweed is a nice delicate one with its colorful salmon-colored anthers contrasting against the stark white of the petals. And the red clover, it's common, but it's still pretty. And of course, this one here looks like a rattlesnake weed, which as a herpetologist, you gotta love that name. We're going to take a look at the Ferguson Cabin, which is on the way up to the Science Center. Here you can see the sign. One of these days I've got to get me a proper 4K camera. It is a beautifully quaint little cabin. Let's take a quick look inside here. Man, can you imagine back in the day when this was your entire house? That's it. And here we have finally reached the Science Center. Wow, this Science Center is quite the facility. It's a beautiful house that was donated to the park with its lands. A large chunk of acreage. But look at this place. I am on the front porch of what used to be this house. Look at their view. Just extraordinary. Unfortunately, it's closed at the moment, but look at the facility here. I apologize for the glare. There's not much I can do about it. But just an incredible facility. I figured while I'm up here at the Science Center with these benches, all that, may as well take a moment to enjoy it. Have my last little Morningstar breakfast patty sandwich that I didn't eat this morning. Some tomatoes to enjoy with it. Fuel up a little bit, recharge. Just enjoy the scenery. Well, after a good 15, 20 minute probably break, I think I'm ready to take off. But I'm telling you, this Science Center have really nice restrooms. Okay, from here we take the trail out towards Cataloochee Divide. Here we go. There we go. That's the one we want. Cataloochee Divide Trail. Then we got about a mile-ish. Thankfully, it's kind of overcast today. It was supposed to be raining, but it's just overcast. Ooh, pretty, pretty, pretty. Look what we have here. I think the fly poison is a new one for me. It's really pretty, quite showy. We've just come down from the connecting trail, down from the Science Center towards the Cataloochee Divide. We've just reached where the horse trail heads on up and joins beyond that direction, coming up to the Science Center up there. And this is the direction we just came from. And this is where we're headed. Evidently get enough water going through this area. First camper and hikers only. Horses, so this is going to lead us back towards the Ferguson Cabin, and then from there on out to the Cataloochee Divide. Beautiful trail. Bear corn is amazing in how prolific it is in the wooded areas. The white bergamot is fantastic. I love that radial layout of the white petals and the purple polka dots against that white. One of my favorites. And the ground cedar, I see it every trip, and it's not at all rare, but I do love to see it. That is one of the beautiful things about the Smokies. We have such a range of elevations from well over 5,000 up towards 6,000 feet down to a little over 1,000. One of the reasons that the Great Smoky Mountains National Park is an international biosphere preserve is the tremendous species richness, the diversity that's present. And that is a unique factor of the microclimates and that are created by the different topographical features, the mountains, the valleys, water, the high amount of moisture, and the different pockets of different environments. And because of all that, you get what we call vertical zonation. That's when you have vertically, because of vertically, you get the same species diversity in going vertically that you would have in the Smokies, that you would have to be going from Georgia all the way up into Canada to equal in terms of species richness. This is an incredibly gorgeous place. And because of that, when you go to do a hike where you're changing elevation, okay, you're going to have to do some climbing, but
you get to see the different types of plants and species change with elevation, and that is so cool. Kind of looks like an umbrella, doesn't it? And they're impressive. And we just came the back way to the Ferguson Cabin. That's the way we came in last time, from that direction. And this one says to the Cataloochee Divide Trail. So we went just a little too far, it looks like. I have to backtrack some. Should look familiar, since we were just here right after leaving the Science Center. Now, take a look and you tell me, if you see this, wouldn't you think, oh, that's horses? And the other one over here, heading down over to the divide trails. No, no, no. Unless you look carefully, you miss what is obvious here. I say horses to Cataloochee Divide Trail. Now, I can understand now that means that's where horses go. And that's the direction to the Cataloochee Divide Trail.
My first thought was, why do they want to put a sign up telling people that this is where your horses go to the Cataloochee Divide Trail? Where's the trail for people to go to the Cataloochee Divide Trail? It is pretty obvious, isn't it? I guess the little sleep and the long trip to get here took a greater toll than I realized.
I just need to be more observant. And of course, here we are. We're going to be going to the left here, going south, and hit the Hemphill Bald Trail in about 1.8 miles. Now, the fact that tomorrow means we've got a climb of about 1,800 feet, that's not the part that makes me smile. But with this particular loop hike, there's no way for me to do it without starting high elevation, going down low, coming back up to finish. No matter which way you do it, you're going to have like around 1,700 foot climb. So may as well enjoy the ride with a lot of rest breaks. Oh, look at this. Here is one of my favorite rattlesnake plantain.
You've heard me talk about the rattlesnake plantain before. That exquisite pattern colors. I like it almost as much as any blooming flower.
Oh, I love this one. The Galix is just so pretty with this beautiful glossy leaves here, and on up to the just immensely beautiful.
I always call it Galix. I love the small blooms, but the shiny wet look of the leaves is almost as attractive.
And we can't forget our old friend the partridge berry. Okay, I wasn't paying that much attention to the trail ahead of me till I heard some grunts. I looked up and there was a black bear about just where the trail starts going downhill at the end of that wooden walkway and crashing through the brush. So I don't know, I think I should probably pay a little more attention, and I couldn't get my camera up to take a picture fast enough.
Not entirely sure on this one. There's 2 or 3 that look close. So if you've got an ID for this one, I'd love to see it in the comments. Thanks.
Okay, from what I'm told, this is the Swag, which is SWAGG, I believe. It's a really nice high-end hotel. It has some nice amenities, features up here on the side of the mountain, right up against the national park boundary. For some of the local residents, I was told that they don't mind people coming down the trail here to stop and walk into their clearing with a gazebo. Just stopping in, taking a look at the view, and leaving is fine. So we're going to do that. As you look out here, you see the trail right here, the Cataloochee Divide Trail. And this fence is the boundary for the park. Man, that swag facility is some facility. It is gorgeous. I think we are coming up to our turn to head down the Hemphill Bald Trail. It's going to go from the sign up here. It's going to go straight to Hemphill Bald or down to the right to hit Caldwell Fork. Love it when it becomes a tunnel like this, going right through the rhododendrons. Pretty pretty. Can't tell if those are sheep or goat or something they have out there. We have, Cataloochee Divide Trail, McKee Branch was 1.8. Yep, and here is the Hemphill Bald Trail with 3 miles down to Caldwell Fork. So that's the way we head. Down we go. We are now heading downhill. Had we continued straight along that fence line, we would have eventually reached Hemphill Bald in another 0.7 miles. But as I've already had an extra 1.4 just to reach the Science Center, and an extra maybe mile, almost a mile, I think I've done enough extra. So I'll skip that for right now, and I'll just head on down this Hemphill Bald Trail until we hit Caldwell Fork, which I've been on once before on the 2021 March Cataloochee hike. I tell you what, it's nice in a way that it's downhill, but if something tells me it's going to have to be just as much uphill on the McKee Branch when I come back up tomorrow. I'm not looking forward to that aspect. Just look around here. Hasn't the Lord given us a marvelous, incredibly beautiful way to get rid of the pressures of civilization?
Not sure which species. Got to get ready for my summer class that starts tomorrow, and I just don't have the time to look it up. So if you have an idea, please leave it in the comments. Same goes for this flower. Love the yellow. Yes, the ever-present Christmas fern. Can't have a Smoky's backpacking video without it.
Choked through here. Hopefully it will widen out here. Yes. Looks like it's going to get a little better. It's been a while since I've seen my old friend here. I believe we saw this in the first Deep Creek hike back in May of 2020.
That hemlock varnish is just a beautiful glossy red on top and creamy white underneath.
One of the first times we've had such an expansive view from the trail. Looking out here. If only I needed water, this would be a nice place to get it. But I still have, 2 liters left, so I don't think I'll bother. Here we have one of my favorites. You can see here the spotted wintergreen.
It is a beautiful flower on a beautiful plant. I can't help but think of the old 1800s gas lantern street light.
Interesting when the trail becomes the creek.
The crimson bee balm reminds me of someone having spilled some red dye on a white bergamot. Now, the world loosestrife. I'm not sure if this is a new one for me or not, but it might be. And of course, with this one, I'm not certain. I think it's the New York fern. But if you have an ID that's different, please leave it in the comments. I'd sure appreciate it.
So, took a nice break, drank a half-liter water. I've already been through, full liter and a half. We are getting close to the Caldwell Fork. That's coming up here shortly. And lots of our familiar favorites, like the Christmas fern, the white bergamot. Those were all over at the higher elevation. And then, of course, the few mountain laurel higher up, and then rhododendron. Yep, sure enough, here we are. Hemphill Bald up to the Cataloochee Divide. Now that we have hit the Caldwell Fork Trail, we are then going to go that way. That's where we came from. We're going to hit the trail and head to campsite here in about 2 or 3/10 of a mile. This place is just carpeted with these club mosses. Here we are, the last little bit to approach our campsite. You can see they have thoughtfully put in what looks like a 8x8 rough-hewn walkway to get you past the quagmire. That's all right. Look at this beautiful bridge. Have to love it. Oh, wow, wow. How pleasant. This is the campsite I went to back in March of 21. And it's a really nice campsite. The river flows right by the camp. So many of the different campsites here. Absolutely beautiful. I'm assuming somebody's nearby. I see a dog off the leash, so we must have a couple people already here. Okay, I think we're going to set up between these trees here, have a view there. And that's it. Well, as you saw, only took me about 7 minutes to set up my hammock. Actually, under 7 minutes. From pulling it out of the bag to sitting down in it. So, I'll show you some more about this hammock a little bit later, but I got this from Seth at Sway Hammocks. Swayy. Really cool guy. I know him because he was a student of my parents, so that was kind of cool. But he's got a great company and 2 different model hammocks. The last I heard, the EIRA EIRA model, which is this one here, is the one that's insulated with 800 fill down. I believe the down is, I think the down's treated to be hydrophobic or something like that, and certainly the fabric to be at least resistant. So, you know, no top quilt, no bottom quilt, no separate rainfly. It's all in one because the hammock itself is insulated and folds over on itself, zips up. So you could not get a faster, quicker setup. And it doesn't matter. I mean, if it's hot, leave it unzipped. If it's cold, zip it up. So this thing has been fantastic. I had it on my January hike, but I had it down to 10 degrees with my jackets that I had on me. I was plenty warm in that thing. And when I say relax, you can see from my hammock, I'm looking right at a small waterfall. Tell you what, the Lord is a fantastic artist and composer. I'm sure you remember the review I did of the BRS stove a few days back or so. But like I said, when I showed you, it lights up and goes like a torch. And so I thought I would try it out on this trip, see what it's like for actual cooking. As you can see, that thing is just going like all get out. It is, in fact, you can take a quick look here. You'll notice I have the handles out, like I said, and already you can see the bubbles on the bottom. And it's only been about 2 minutes, probably. That thing is incredibly fast. I brought that Pocket Boy, the 170 millimeter one, and in the space of about 8 minutes of cutting, got all that firewood. So as always, I'm not going anywhere without that. As before, I've got the little insulation bag. I'm just going to stick this inside. Kind of lean up here, closes off, and saves the heat. Okay, it's time to get some more water. So I'm going to use my Sawyer and probably put it into this. Oh, we need some good flowing water first. Okay, here it goes. We'll get this going. One thing I don't like about these sawyers is the hole is so small. It's hard to get. What they need to do is make their bags where it opens at the back. You can scoop up a large, seal it, and then shove it out this end. That would be more like the platypus setup. This is the way to eat dinner. You take it out, let's have plenty of time. I filtered the water while this was cooking. And now just stir it up and you're good to go. Another reason I like to eat over here, obviously the scenery is fantastic, but anytime you've got something odoriferous, really smelly and all that, probably not the best idea to eat it too close to where you're sleeping that night. What a gorgeous campsite. What a beautiful water feature to sit and watch while you eat. I realized that when I was packing my pack at home, the one thing I left out were the little fire starters. Fortunately, I have an Esbit stove, so I'm using some of the Esbit discs to get this going here. Well, the second Esbit did it, I think. As you can see, it is starting to take off. You can see that having a nice fire, the smoke will clear away the bugs. I don't want the heat, just the smoke. In any case, it's comforting to have. It is just now sundown. What a beautiful day the Lord has given me on this Sabbath. I saw the bear early on. I seen juncos, several other birds, all kinds of beautiful flowers. It didn't rain once today. Thundered a couple times. That was it. It was overcast, and it made it a lot more pleasant than it otherwise would have been. So, again, something else for which to be grateful. But now that it's sundown, I'll have a brief worship. I think one of my favorite songs, Day is Dying in the West, and then probably try to get an early start tomorrow. We just put the filtered water in both the 1 liter bottles.
Sorry about the lighting appearance. I was using a red light because it was pretty late and I didn't want to disturb the other campers with the bright white light.
It is now 9:30. I think it's time to get to bed, so we'll see you in the morning. 6:42, and I won't be able to go until 7 probably, because I still have to filter a little more water. I would have been able to go about maybe an hour earlier if it weren't for this fella.
This was a very friendly, loving dog, but he knocked over my food preparation 2 or 3 times almost, and it was very frustrating. I wish the owners had been considerate enough to keep him in the tent or tied up until people were through with preparation. I don't even know the policy for dogs in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, but I just wish they had kept the dog with them until I was done and ready to go. At least until I was done with my food.
Well, 7:14. The dog's owner is finally up. The dog is still sitting by my camp. I won't go back to his owner. Probably shouldn't have been so nice to him the other day, and he wouldn't be glomming on to me. But in any case, 7:14, packed up, got the hammock, that wasn't bad, water filtered, that was about another 10. So I got 2.5 liters. If I get going pretty soon, hopefully I can catch it during early hours and not sweat as much. So I'll just take more breaks. But don't want to start just yet. I think I'll wait till 7:30. As you can see, we are approaching the point where we came down, and that was the proximity alarm I set for where Hemphill Bald Trail comes down. Hemphill Bald comes down and intersects Caldwell Fork that we're on, and we're going to continue this way on Caldwell Fork until, as you will recall, we reach the McKee Branch Trail. Forgotten about these crossings here. This would be the one that I crossed on my March of 21 hike. All right. Incidentally, in case you're wondering, when I packed up the hammock today, my hat was sitting in the hammock. I think I'll go without one today. I'll just be a little extra careful when I do my search for ticks at the end of the hike.
The Smokies are wonderful for mushrooms. I'm thinking this is maybe some type of Amanita species.
Okay, we are just now reaching the McKee Trail. Yeah, we get to leave Caldwell Fork. Yeah. And head on up. Starts off such a wide, pleasant trail. I would swear that it remained that way, but well, we get what we'll get. Really is bright and open and not all that steep here at the bottom of the McKee Ridge. Oh, looks like we have our first crossing. This is going to be interesting, how to get across without getting soaked. I think we'll try this route here and just count on a little bit of Gore-Tex action to keep me from getting too soaked. Ah, boy. I guess we have to... Oh, wow. That is interesting. I think we'll just try going up this part here. And look at that. Worked after all. Here's a unfortunate find. I say unfortunate because I think it is no longer a lot. Can't tell for sure. Okay, I'm a little rusty on my salamanders, but this looks most like the Southern Appalachian salamander. This particular one, based on its appearance and the listed range. If you've got a different ID, please let me know in the comments. I was afraid of this. It is now almost 9, and it's actually beginning to rain just a little bit. I may have to pull out the poncho. This is an interesting fungi. It's fairly substantial. It's a very colorful beetle. I usually see them on the hemlock varnish, that reddish glossy one with the white underside that you see on the trees there. But this one was the first time I've seen for this particular fungi. Well, just finished another 3-minute rest break. Those isolines have gotten a lot closer together, so it's gotten a good bit steeper. So it does slow down the pace somewhat. I think I'm about a mile from reaching the Cataloochee Divide. The good news is we only have about, maybe almost 2/10 of a mile of the really steep, crowded isolines. So after that, they start spreading out some. Still be uphill, but more manageable. Here we finally have one of my beloved rattlesnake plantains. Don't you just love that network vein pattern? And then, of course, you can see, pretty. As you've heard me say before, I love that delicate green webbing on that darker green, rich color. It is gorgeous. If I had to pick a single favorite, that would certainly be in the running. Just took another 10-minute break here, and we are right at the top of the really steep, where the contour lines on the map are really packed tight. We're just at the top of that, and now the contour line's starting to stretch out now, so we should be easing off. Left camp today with 2.5 liters of water that I was able to filter. Not as hot as it was yesterday. You need to hydrate regularly. Sip every so often. Take a sip. Everyone take a sip. Yeah, it's nice when they put the steps in there for you. It looks like we're getting pretty close. I think we're right to the top of the McKee Branch. Yep, sure enough, here we are. Now that is a welcome sign. Well, a trail sign, but welcome nonetheless. Yep, that's the way I went yesterday. This is the direction the wildflowers are. I didn't used to care all that much about them when I was younger. 20s, 30s, yeah, they're nice, but now I enjoy them much more. And they are a work of art. They are truly beautiful. Love that white bergamot and the crimson bee balm. Those things are really interesting. Aren't we fortunate that the one who designed nature decided to give us such beautiful artwork to enjoy while we're out there? Not sure if we've done these already or not. Very pretty though. Very pretty.
Best I can tell, this is some kind of mountain mint. Probably the thin leaf mountain mint, which would be species montanum. And that would be a new one for me.
We are now reached the upper gate for the Science Center. Well, it looks like we finally reached the other gate that announces park property. Now down past a couple of houses, and that's it.
The Japanese meadow sweet is another new flower for me. Very pretty indeed. Although native to Japan, it is naturalized throughout much of the southeast.
And our last gate is in sight. And with any luck, so will my car be in sight shortly. Yep, sure enough. How about that? Still there. And with any luck, catalytic converter will still be there. Unfortunately, one of the more common occurrences for more remote access points when you park there, but it looks like we're there. Well, I want to thank you for joining me for yet another Sylvan Reflection adventure. In this case, it was quite the bit of excitement, a little backtracking, the very steep downhills and the incredibly steep uphills, but through it all, such gorgeous scenery that the Lord's given us to view. And I love campsite 41. That is one of my favorite campsites. You have that pebbled beach right next to the rippling stream. It's gorgeous. So thanks for being with me, and join me again on my next video.